Welcome to Meldon Law and Friends. I'm Jeffrey Meldon, founder and attorney at Meldon Law, and we are going to have a great show. Today, one of our really fine attorneys is going to be joining us, Marko Nikitovic. And he has got an incredible background, and we're so glad to have Marko join the Meldon Law team. He'll be coming up in just a few minutes. We're here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. What a great place to join our friends at Meldon Law and Friends. And if any of you have not been out here yet, please put it on your list of things to do. It's a wonderful restaurant, great food, and what makes it unique is it's got a absolutely fabulous museum here dedicated to Gator sports and Steve Spurrier in particular. So come out here. You'll really have a blast, and we love it here. And they have the best podcast room in Florida, so maybe in the world. Who knows? Anyhow, we're having a great time here. Couple things coming up. We have a big game against University of Central Florida coming up October 5th. And the reason it's a big game is because the Gators have to win it, or else the wheels may fall off the program as far as what's going on. For those of you that are following Gator football, you know that we've had some challenges the last few years and also this year, and we're hoping to turn it around. Before the game, Meldon Law is going to be having a fan fest, a big tent and celebration outside of the O-Dome right next to the football stadium. So please come and join us. We set up 3 hours before game time. Game time is 7:45, so we should be there by 4:45, and there'll be lots of free gifts for everyone. All you have to do is spin the wheel and win a gift. You will love it. Also, we have the homecoming parade coming up October 18th. And that's going to be really cool. We have a brand new Meldon Law van that we had wrapped to move all our swag around when we have fan fests and things like that. So we're going to be using that in the parade. We're going to be having a trailer we're going to tow and put some surprises on the trailer along with the Meldon Law team members. So it is going to be a lot of fun. Let's see, we have North Florida Rocktoberfest, October 12th, at Homestead Park in Williston. And the ultimate rock and roll celebration featuring the Battle of the Bands. And there's going to be lots of food and arts and crafts and a lot of fun. So come and support our fans and our friends out in Williston. That's this coming Saturday. October 12th, a week from Saturday. And support them, and you'll have a great time. It starts at 11 and goes till 7. Couple other things. Oh, we have a great giveaway for the Florida-Georgia game. I know the Gators are challenged this year. However, the Florida-Georgia game is always a great experience, and Meldon Law is giving away a VIP experience, including 2 very good seats for the Florida-Georgia game on November 2nd, a 2-night stay in a riverfront room at the DoubleTree in Jacksonville, and you can ferry across to the stadium. Dinner for 2 at Ruth Chris Steakhouse the night before. 2 passes for the Gator Hospitality event, a bunch of Meldon Law swag in one of our classic duffel bags, and a football signed by Billy Napier. You can make jokes about it, but Billy Napier is our coach, and he's a really good guy. I hope he pulls it together. Some other things going on. the Alzheimer's Walk, October 26th, the Walk to End Alzheimer's. Meldon Law has been sponsoring the walk for 3 years now, and there's amazing contributions that the Alzheimer's Association is making to move forward the progress of combating the devastating effects of Alzheimer's. It affects all of us, Alzheimer's, dementia. Everybody has somebody in their family or friends that's been affected by it. The good news is, in the last couple of years, we're really making some significant progress. So that's a good thing. Go to Meldon Law's Facebook page or to our Instagram page, and you will be able to get lots of free giveaways for tickets for whatever the sporting event is. So please join us there, and you will win. Everybody that enters eventually wins. And lastly, I just want to tell you that if you go to meldonlaw.com, our website, you'll see we have 2 books at the top of the homepage, and they're books on, number 1, what kind of insurance you need, and number 2, if you're in an accident, how to avoid mistakes that can wreck your Florida accident case. The book, 7 Mistakes That Can Wreck Your Florida Accident Case, really outlines what not to do in a accident case, and it gives you an outline of how the process works. What we want to do is be transparent, help people, and I wrote the book along with my son, Kerry, and we wrote it in simple English language so everyone can understand it. The insurance book is great. You can download a copy of both of those, get a PDF version right from our website, or you can have the actual consumer guide sent to you in the mail, whatever you prefer. So that's a little bit about what's going on, and we are very excited. Things are doing very well. We did survive the hurricane here in Gainesville and Ocala. I know some of our friends closer to the coast had trouble, big trouble, with the storm surge and other flooding issues, as well as the wind damage and trees down. So we encourage everybody to help your neighbors and get things back to normal. We live in Florida, so we have to be prepared, because this is not the first, and it's not going to be the last hurricane that we deal with. So let's see if we can help each other out and do some good deeds at this time when people definitely need help. So that's it for what's going on in the community. We're going to take a short break, and we will be back in just a few minutes.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
I was going down a one-way street, and a girl that was driving her car T-boned me on my scooter. I ended up going for an MRI and discovering that I had 2 herniated discs. Coming to Carrie allowed me to not have to worry about what doctor I was going to see or what physical therapist I had to go to. They say, these are the people we trust. You're going to have a great experience there, and I honestly did each time.
Call Meldon Law. Your consultation is absolutely free.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
And I was in an accident. Someone ran red light and hit me, and I was hurt. You don't know where to turn. Luckily, I called Jeffrey. These big insurance companies, they don't want you to win. They truly don't. But Jeffrey and his firm and the people that work here, they just really fight for you. You call the law offices of Jeffrey Meldon, because you're going to need help, and they will help you.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Hey, Sammy, look who's there. Say hi.
Hey!
You again.
Meldon Law, Jeffrey speaking.
Somebody else.
Here we go again.
After the car accident, your personal life takes a toll when you have major injuries. Being a mother of 3 kids, having to work, it became overwhelming. Didn't know what was going to be my outcome, but Meldon Law actually, they went above and beyond.
At Meldon Law, we're not just your legal team, we're your support system. You do not have to go through this alone. At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Welcome back to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, where we are here with Meldon Law and Friends. What a great place to have a podcast. It's a really cool room. And I have with us today a very special guest, one of our terrific lawyers at Meldon Law, Marko Nikitovic. Did I get close, Marko, on the last
That
thing?
was actually perfect. You got it right on. Yeah.
So anyhow, Marko joined us several months ago and has really jumped in and, done a terrific job at Meldon Law. I want to go back to a little bit of, your background and how you wound up here in Gainesville. Marko, where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Toronto, raised there, Toronto, Canada. I'm so exotic,
Well, Toronto's a cool city. I was in Toronto several times, and it's really one of the neatest cities in North America.
What I love about Toronto is that it's this, mix of culture without being completely blended. So you really get that unique experience from, Little Chinatown or Little Italy, and you really experience the people that are from there still maintaining their culture and getting that dynamic experience. So yeah, that's what I love about it.
Yeah, and Toronto's a huge city. I don't know, 4 million people or something like that.
Exactly.
And I've been to Montreal and I've been to Toronto. Toronto's certainly more Americanized, I think, than Montreal. Montreal is Montreal is more of a mix with a strong French influence. So you're born and raised. How did your family decide to wind up in Toronto?
That is a great question, actually. I think it was really just opportunity, because my mother, her sisters, that generation were raised actually in a small town about 3 hours north, Sudbury, which was a small mining town, which is where my grandfather had worked. And then, then the 3 daughters, my mother and her 2 sisters, moved down to Toronto just because that's where the work was, the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it was the big city, jobs, and,
Exactly.
Toronto's always been, pretty special. Did you wind up staying in Toronto as far as college goes?
Yeah, so I grew up there, went to high school, did my undergrad in philosophy, which really opened doors for me. It was either teach philosophy, become a lawyer, or be homeless. And so I really felt like my options were picked for me there.
Well, I remember philosophy. I took some philosophy courses.
Did you?
In college, yeah. And when I came to Gainesville, I audited some philosophy courses that
Really?
I found. Yeah. I took one course in, there was one in Marx, Darwin, and Freud. Another course I took was existentialism.
Okay.
I took another course in humanistic psychology, and then I took another course in utopian theory, and so I got. When I moved to Gainesville, I was a long-haired hippie. It's 1970, right? And so, so philosophy was right up my alley, and I got to be friends with the chairman of the philosophy department, plus a lot of the other professors, and we'd hang out at night and, just socialize, and so it was kind of neat. I already had my law degree, and then I go, well, I've got to wait a while to take the Florida bar and then do this. And so I said, oh, well, the philosophy department looks like a lot of fun in 1970. And Gainesville, it was awesome. So anyhow, so I know that after you graduated, you did some postgraduate work up in Toronto. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I wasn't one to go right through school. I had finished my undergrad, and I was in that category of figuring out what to do with a philosophy degree when I had discovered alternative dispute resolution as a concept. I mean, I was working in security at the time, and I was working at a hospital, and the hospital has this department called patient relations, which is essentially dealing with the angry people that go to the hospital.
Right.
But it really opened my eyes to the idea of conflict resolution and the different avenues that it takes. And it also worked out with the security job that I was working, because in security I'm dealing with all kinds of people who are in that very frustrated crisis moment.
Oh, man. People at the hospitals get really upset.
Yeah. Oh.
I mean, and it may just be, I've been waiting here for 8 hours, right?
No, never. The hospital I worked at, we were so efficient. But so I found out this course at the same university I got my philosophy degree at in alternative dispute resolution, focusing on mediation and arbitration, not even knowing then that it would play such a role in the work we do now. But it was such a great program, and learning about that interest-based approach to resolving conflict, where you're really considering not just, okay, what's the best possible outcome at all times, but what does a best outcome mean to the individual parties? Because it's not always about what you think it is. Sometimes it's about getting someone to accept responsibility when they're just being stubborn. Sometimes it's about putting a monetary value or some kind of punitive value, depending what you're looking at. But really understanding that interest-based approach to conflict, really changed my perspective on how to resolve these issues.
I think it's great. Sometimes people, if you just ask them, what can I do to help you? That's huge. That's huge, right?
Huge. Yeah.
Instead of trying to figure out who's right or who's wrong, say, what can I do to help you? And
it's amazing when you apply that, how often you realize people are disagreeing as much as you think they are. It's not really as direct of a conflict when you're just not meeting that same perspective.
Right. So that must have been really interesting working, in a hospital. People don't realize how security is really necessary in the hospital, because some people go batshit in the waiting room. Did you work the emergency room sometimes?
Oh, I worked the entire parking lot. Or parking lot is what came to mind, because I'm no stranger to being threatened with a heroin needle.
Yeah, I'm coming at you.
But no, it actually really gave me a unique perspective here, because like I said, in that environment, particularly in a hospital, you're dealing with people in their crisis moment, whether they're coming into the emergency room because they're dealing with some kind of substance abuse, or whether they're a family who's emotional because they're dealing with grief. So you get that incredibly nuanced, unique perspective of trying to communicate with people and trying to approach these situations with both the idea of let's reach a resolution, but let's also do it in a way that has compassion to the circumstance that they're putting up with. And so that was invaluable life experience that, frankly, even though you think, what does being a security guard have to do with being a lawyer, it really tailored the way that I view things now. And it's the same with working in a hospital environment, because the hospital I worked at, their motto was patient-centered care. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I didn't really see how much that would impact me, but now as an attorney, I view it as, well, my ultimate goal is client-centered approach to the way that I work and the way that you work in Meldon Law has been the same. It's that idea that the client comes first. And everything you're doing, whether it's little tasks or the big tasks, dealing with the opposing party, the adjusters, whatever it may be, is all about that client's interest. And putting all those pieces together, I feel like, has allowed me to really focus on giving the clients the best service that they can get.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I know at Meldon Law we really focus in on client communication. So there's a little secret in the practice of law. And the secret is, no matter how good a lawyer you are, it's more important to communicate with the client than anything else. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
No, it is. I mean, that's really, when I started getting cases under my own name and taking on a client list of my own under your firm specifically, the first thing I did is contact the client and introduce myself and say, hey, I'm going to be working on your case. I'm going to be checking in with you. I'm not going to irritate you, but I want you to know if something's going on in your case, you need to be the one to know about it. You need to understand what's happening, and if you have questions about it, reach out to me. I don't know if I'm, crossing a line.
No.
So,
absolutely. I think that when the clients hear that, and then you actually deliver on that promise.
Right.
And as you know, it's not only the attorneys, but the whole team working on someone's case. We have really discovered that just calling people and saying, is everything going okay? Do you have any questions? Would you like to talk to Marko? Would you like to talk to...
I don't know if this is appropriate, but something that I do is I give the clients my number. And I say, anytime. This is a bad habit. I'm sure my wife doesn't appreciate it, but I say 24/7. If someone's there at 2 a.m., they're in a bad spot, they need a question answered, I want them to be able to reach me directly and have that assurance that I'm committed to what you need, even if that's something as simple as clarifying a question that you may have.
I think that's really good, and most people respect your time too. I mean,
I've never had it abused.
Yeah. I mean, people, they go, "Oh, you mean I can actually call you outside of 8:30 to 5?" Yeah,
Absolutely.
Give me a call, and we'll tell you what's going on and figure out what we can do, to help resolve whatever your concerns are, or. I think most importantly in personal injury cases, every time we talk with a client about their treatment, about how they're feeling, what's going on, we actually learn something that helps us in the case.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love the days when clients come into the office. Nowadays, we're flexible. So if you don't want to see us and you just want to talk to us, that's fine. If you want to Zoom with us, that's fine. If you want to text us, that's fine. If you want to talk on the phone. In the old days, we didn't even sign up clients, new cases, without them coming into the office. We'd meet with them. We'd present them with a contract. If they didn't want to sign it, they, come back the next day. And people were, I think that was the norm.
Right.
And that was only, 5 years ago before COVID. It wasn't that long ago. So what are some of the good things and some of the challenges that you think the post-COVID era has presented us with?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's the pros and cons are that accessibility of systems like Zoom and phone calls, and really it's familiarity with that, right? Because those have been around since before COVID even. But now culturally, as a community, we've shifted our perspective in recognizing that, yes, that's an effective way to maintain more regular contact. But in terms of the challenges there, you can sometimes feel disconnected from these people when, there's so much of a world of a difference. You can really tell someone cares or the emotions that they have behind that when you have that face-to-face and you sit down with them and you talk not just about the case if it's a client, but about them. What's going on? What have you been up to lately? And really understanding that personal side of things that I feel like even if you have a phone call or a Zoom call, it's not always there, I'm going to be honest.
Well, it's different. Okay, so, you always talk about body language. You talk about, being in a room with somebody. And what we have decided to do is to let our clients dictate the way they want to communicate. However, we always encourage our clients to come in and visit with us, because it really makes a huge difference when we meet with clients. And you come in talking about one thing, and then all of a sudden they start bringing up some other things, and you start finding out more. Sometimes it may be something as simple as what are the prior injuries that you've had?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, clients tend to open up more when you're sitting there in a room with them. I think it may have to do with the trust factor,
Yep.
looking people in the eye and doing that. But it's for those of you that are watching and listening, it's an absolute night and day experience compared to the way it was done before COVID. And in many ways, I think it's great. I think the Zoom conferences or hearings with judges have saved lawyers so much time.
Yes.
Like, particularly in our practice, we get a percentage of the fee, but in a lot of legal cases, you're paying the lawyer by the hour, and that includes him or her driving to the courthouse, sitting there for an hour and a half while the judge deals with other attorneys that are also waiting for hearings, then having to go back. So you wind up blowing your whole morning, sometimes or whole morning, afternoon, for a 5-minute hearing. And meanwhile, the client gets a bill for 4 hours of your time because it took you 4 hours of your time.
Yeah, it's an expensive Uber.
Yeah. So now the good thing is that you can, in many cases, we can have hearings with the judges, and we wait until it's our turn, and then boom, you're notified, you're there, the judge is there, the opposing counsel is there, and you deal with things. However, if I have a client and it's a serious matter, particularly, a personal injury case, when you get the client there, it makes a difference. In a trial, we tried and experimented with Zoom trials, and I think people felt like it was not a very good alternative.
Yeah, that's definitely something that just doesn't compare, particularly with the trial, because the way I see it and the way I've been taught to see it is that a trial is really about the storytelling, communicating with these members of your community what happened, why they should care, and why they should find in your favor ultimately. And I just don't know that storytelling is as effective when you're using that Zoom or whatever, alternative means of communication as that storytelling medium. And I think that a lot is lost in the same way that we talked about some of the things that are lost just in the conversations you have with people. But I think that's multiplied when you look at something like a trial and testimony specifically.
Yeah, I mean, look, would I rather be sitting there with a judge face-to-face in hearings? Yes. I think our effectiveness and our ability to convey the story or our side of the story is very important. However, the idea of saving 4 hours and also the client not having to pay, particularly in, family law, commercial law, non-personal injury cases, it gets so expensive for clients. And if they can, if the attorney bills them for 30 minutes instead of 4 hours, that's a huge difference.
But even cost aside, another thing that I love about it is that it's also an opportunity for clients to stay involved because we'll let them know you have this hearing coming up, but also they get a Zoom link. If they want to take what then becomes only 5 minutes out of their day to pop in and see, okay, this is what's going on at this step with my case, keeps them informed, keeps them involved at their own option and at their own convenience, really, because they can be zooming in from their car on a break from work or whatever it is, and they're just as involved as if they had to go and drive to the courthouse and appear in front of the judge themselves.
Yes, absolutely. I think, some of this stuff may seem like nuanced, and a little here and there, but believe me, in our real world, it does make a huge difference. So, you have talked about your experience in dispute resolution up in Toronto, and how'd you make your way down to Florida?
So it was very much on a whim. Like I mentioned, I was a security guard in a hospital. I did that for about 5 years, even when I got that certificate. And, I had been applying to all these different mediation positions, things like that. And I quickly learned that those positions are occupied by attorneys and former judges. And if I really wanted to do something, in that field or move forward, that was the route I had to go. And on a whim, literally one night after I was on a shift, I signed up to take the LSAT, took it, did decently well, and just started applying. And one of the places I got in was Florida International University in Miami. And I said, let's do it. Let's completely mix up my life. And there I went.
That's awesome. Yeah, and FIU has become a very good law school. It's sponsored by the state, which means the tuition is a little more reasonable than
not for an out of state.
No, the out of state they stick it to you. If you're in state, I always tell our law clerks at the office, if they can find an in-state school, it's the best deal, going. So you go to law school. Now, were you single at the time?
I was, yes. I was single at the time, and I actually met my now wife in my first year of law school. It was the last year of her degree that she was doing at FIU. So we met, and unfortunately she was leaving Miami to come up to Gainesville to do a dentistry program. So we met, fell in love, couldn't be without each other, and then she left me. And came up to Gainesville.
But obviously you didn't let her go.
No shot. Well, I let her go to Gainesville, follow her dreams of becoming a dentist. But while I was still in law school, we did the long distance thing, and then unfortunately, or in some ways fortunately, COVID happened, and so my schooling became remote. I came up to Gainesville to be with her here.
Oh.
Because her schooling was not remote, which is a whole other mess that we don't need to get into.
Yeah, during COVID.
Yeah,
dentistry. For those of you that can imagine, you're going to your dentist right during COVID was pretty crazy.
Yes,
right?
It was.
And so what's your wife's name? Giselle?
Yes.
And so Giselle is going to dental school here. You are able to go to law school remotely because that's what everybody was doing for at least a year or so.
Yeah.
And then what happened next?
So I actually fell in love with Gainesville while I was here. I love this city. I love that we are, very central to other big cities without having to be a big city ourselves. We have Tampa, Jacksonville, Orlando, all within arm's reach. And we get the beautiful nature that we have around here in the community. And so after I finished my degree, I got a job here. And I started out actually as a public defender in the criminal justice system. And did that for 2 years here in Gainesville.
Well, that's a great way to get into the courtroom. I know my son Kerry started as a state attorney, a prosecutor over in Daytona for 4 years, and he learns. You get in the courtroom, they throw you in right away, right?
Oh, fantastic! And the people there, I feel like there's almost a negative sentiment behind the public defender, but I was so fortunate to have the people mentor me, the people that I worked with. These are attorneys who have been doing it for decades, some of them, and trial experts. These are people who know what they're doing and are willing to take the time and teach people, and that's exactly what the experience I had. I was taught by these great attorneys. I had over 20 trials in my first 2 years as a public defender. It was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, and Stacy Scott is terrific. She does a really good job of running running her shop. Her dad was a very prominent personal injury attorney.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, I heard he was a politician. I didn't realize he was a personal
politician,
injury attorney too.
No. Stacy is She's one of my good friends, and I always enjoy seeing Stacy. But she has set the tone as far as having a top-notch public defenders. The challenge in the public defender's office is always that you have 3 times more cases than you can effectively handle, right?
Yeah, but starting out there really taught me the value of teamwork, because even though everyone individually is drowning in their own caseload, they work together and help each other manage those cases in a way that really teaches you the value of the team that you work with. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking just the other attorneys, because even more valuable than the other attorneys, and I'll say that easily, is the support staff, the administrative staff, the paralegals, the legal assistants. I mean, everyone working together does an amazing job.
And I think part of that is we're in a university city here in Gainesville, so you have some really smart people that come out of University of Florida and Santa Fe and other places, and the attorneys, a lot of them have gone to the University of Florida Law School, which is a really top-notch law school. So it's a good environment for getting talent. I know at Meldon Law we have eight interns running around doing all these things, and I'm like, I look at their there's resumes, right? And every one of them straight A's, high scores. They're like we're very blessed in that way in Gainesville to have a lot of smart talent around. And what we try to do is the same thing at the PD's office. We love, coaching them up, giving them things to do, giving them feedback, letting them see what it's, really like. So now you're in Gainesville, right? And Giselle, she's getting her dentistry degree. You're getting your law degree.
Yes.
And then what happens next?
So there was a period where I had been working, like I mentioned, for about 2 years for the public defender's office, and Giselle then graduated from dentistry school. And she decided that she didn't want to just go finish her degree and hop into a practice. She wanted some more experience, so she decided to do a residency, which is optional in dentistry. And she applied and ended up back in Miami, much to my chagrin. Not a huge Miami fan. Sorry, that may be an unpopular opinion. I love Gainesville so much more. And I'm very much the ball to my wife's chain. So wherever she goes, I follow. So we went back down to Miami, and I, as a filthy traitor that I am, switched sides and went from being a public defender, switched over to the Miami prosecutor's office. But that was an invaluable experience. Not just because as much as there was comfort staying within the criminal justice system and using the experience that I learned, being able to shift and then view things from that other perspective, because as a defense attorney, you're very much focused on tearing the case down, looking at what the prosecutor's trying to build up as evidence against your client and picking it apart piece by piece. But then switching that then to the prosecutor's side was all about building that puzzle, building that case, and putting everything together. But you're also considering the other side, and you're also considering the rights of the defendant and what their case is going to look like. And it was a much more holistic approach that now that I've transitioned to the civil world lets me really have, I think, a good perspective on both sides here.
And then you transition to into plaintiff personal injury is what we do. And that's really more like being a prosecutor, because you're trying to build the case.
Absolutely. And I love it because, particularly with your firm, bringing clients on from day one and having that background of being a prosecutor and understanding what you need to build your case. We have great investigators going out there, get this evidence, that evidence, talking to the clients themselves and saying, hey, can you document this? Can you make sure that you have that picture or that piece of paper or whatever it is? And having that understanding really lets us build that case, and tying it back to what I said earlier, tell that story, develop the story right from day one.
Yeah, I always, encourage everybody to try to think about your closing argument in a trial as soon as the client comes in. Okay, what is it that's special about this case? What's going to help move this case along in a positive direction? And that's what good lawyering is. You work with the client, communicate with the client, make the client know that you care about the case, and then get about the serious business of developing the themes in the case. Because what you were talking about earlier about being in front of a jury, it's the same thing if you're in front of a adjuster or opposing counsel.
Absolutely.
You have to present something compelling for them to do it. So I think that it's very, very admirable that you were able to get both sides and understand that there's two sides to the story. There always is. And I've never had a case where the other side didn't have something to say,
right.
And that we always try to listen to what the other attorney or the adjuster says. What are your thoughts about that as far as how do you using your mediation and dispute resolution skills in dealing with the adjusters, the attorneys? We call it, you can call them the opposition, but really it's almost like a courtroom where everybody has their role.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it ties in, twofold. One, with my experiences mediation and dispute resolution, and also the idea of having worked both sides, is that, understanding both sides of that coin, understanding both parties' objectives, tied in with the idea of, as I mentioned earlier, that interest-based resolution, and knowing not just what they're trying to do, but why they're trying to do it, in a way that lets you see things from a perspective of, okay, I understand what you're doing here, I understand why you're doing it. We're not really that far apart in terms of our understanding of the case. Something funny coming to the civil world from the criminal. Criminal, you're looking at guilty, not guilty. It's very black and white in that way. But with civil, you can find yourself agreeing with, okay, we agree that something happened here, we agree that we're the responsible party, but then you start disagreeing on, well, how much is appropriate. And then when you get to that understanding of, okay, why am I going to spend all this time arguing about you did this, you should be responsible for that, when they're already sitting there saying, yes, I agree.
Yeah. Let's get down to where the rubber meets the road, which is usually money.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And in the civil world, in most cases, it has a lot to do with money, even in family law. How much am I going to have to pay? My spouse, and certainly in business, it's the same thing. And in personal injury, we can agree most of the time on what the strengths and weaknesses are, as far as who is at fault. We don't control how much insurance there is, and that's always the X factor, right?
Very true.
And then if the other person's at fault and there's tons of insurance, then you're sitting there going, well, what is the value of the case? We call it damages.
Yeah.
And so let's move on now. So you're back as a prosecutor. How do we get Marko back to Gainesville now?
Well, like I said, my wife was doing the residency, which was a year-long program. And then she kind of cast a wide net, applying all over Florida, really. I say wide net. Florida's big enough, and applied all over Florida. Had her interviews in Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, and thankfully an opportunity came up for her in Gainesville. And as much as I'm the ball to her chain, I'm like, oh, Gainesville, let's look into this opportunity, because I was so happy to have the chance to be back here. And so she ended up at a good opportunity to practice here, and I jumped on the opportunity to come back.
Well, we're very lucky to have you in Gainesville, and our community's lucky because we have some great lawyers in the law firm that care about people, and I think that's the, most important thing that I preach is, if you care about your clients, if you talk to them, if you take care of them, if you make sure that, whatever concerns them, you're available. It makes things much easier. You get better results. You get clients that then refer other people to you because they had a very positive experience. So I'm glad that you decided to move back to Gainesville when Giselle found an opening here. So it was very serendipitous, right? It all fell into place.
I mean, I'm glad that you guys had an opportunity and you were willing to give me the chance here, because I had heard about Meldon before I even was looking for jobs here. Obviously, I have a link through Yolanda and Lot because they were also former public defenders under Stacey Scott, and they had told me nothing but great things. I know you mentioned all these ways that we interact with the clients, but to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit here, you treat your staff a lot of the same ways, and you create this wonderful fostering environment that encourages your staff to be daring, if I could say, in taking opportunities and being forthcoming and fostering that healthy work environment that then translates into being able to have that relationship with the clients. It starts right at the root, and you fostered such a great work environment that I'm grateful to now be a part of.
Well, thank you very much. That it's really kind, and I take it seriously because we do work hard, and I can tell you as founder of the law firm that it's always a challenge. Things are always changing. People in the firm, things happen, and they move here, they move there, things change. You're always dealing with. It's like a law firm is very organic in that way, and we have certain core values that I think keep us aligned, and that is, we're client centric. We know that if the clients hear from us, if they can meet with us, if they can get access to whatever information they need about their case, they're going to be better served. They're not, you hear stories about clients not being able to communicate with their law firm, and I just shake my head. I can't believe law firms do that.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Not only that is I regularly hear, especially from cases we get from other firms, the idea that they can never get an attorney on the phone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't get it.
The person who's most primarily handling your case, and you can't talk to them?
Right, the one who's going to develop the strategy in the case. Right?
But it also works backwards, because if the attorney's not speaking with the client, how are they possibly going to properly represent their interests if they are not keeping in touch with them?
Right. And you know what? For everybody listening and watching, what we do is we're always trying to find strengths and weaknesses in the case, because eventually they'll come out if you file a lawsuit. However, if you have what I would call a weakness in the case, something, I always would draw a line down. I put these are the strengths of the case, this is the weakness of the case. If you know what the weaknesses are in the case, then you can address how you're going to talk about them, how you're going to solve them, what the client might be able to do. Do you need to bring in an expert to evaluate it? So the client communication helps us direct more successul results in our cases. 100%. So I think we're getting to the end of our show now, Marko, and I want to know if you have any last words for our listeners and viewers.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to come on here, have this conversation with you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work for your firm. It's been fantastic. You made a lot of promises up front about what I could expect, but somehow you've been living up to them so far.
And I didn't pay Marko to say that.
Well, not directly, not for those words specifically, but.
But anyhow, hey, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Thank you for the service that you provide to all of our clients. Thank you for being a great team member at Meldon Law, and we look forward to you being with us for many, many years. And thank you all for listening, watching, and next week we're going to be back with another edition of Meldon Law and Friends. And that